Okay, so get ready, because in this deep dive, we're heading into a world that you probably, never think about.
No, not at all.
But it's actually crucial
How
to
so?
industries all over the planet. We're talking about conveyor belt idlers.
These are, essential,
Yeah.
but they're kind of hidden, right?
Yeah, the unsung heroes of heavy industry. So we're talking about those rotating cylinders that you see supporting these massive conveyor belts. You know, the ones hauling coal, car parts, everything.
Anything you can imagine, really.
Yeah, and you want to know what's even cooler about this deep dive?
What's that?
We've got source material from, get this, TL PATHAK Group,
Oh, wow.
an Indian company, and they build the machines that make idler components.
See, this is what I love getting into that niche manufacturing. It's like a glimpse into how things are made, but on a global scale.
Right. I was going through their catalog being like, I had no idea how specialized this equipment is.
Oh, yeah.
They have a machine for every single step of the process.
It's remarkable.
It's wild. It's like this giant metal crunching puzzle.
And every single machine speaks to just how demanding these components are.
Right.
Right? Think about the stress, the environments.
Yeah, totally.
They have to be tough.
Okay, so let's jump into some of these machines because I was making notes like crazy going through this catalog.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so they have something called the automatic pipe cutting machine for conveyor idler rollers.
Okay, so right away,
Just the name?
you're talking precision from the very beginning,
Yeah.
right? Taking these large pipes, cutting them down to create those perfectly sized rollers. And those rollers, that's the heart of the idler.
And I imagine even a tiny variation in that cut could throw the whole system off.
Absolutely, because you're talking about massive amounts of material moving on these conveyor systems.
Right.
Any imbalance, any inefficiency, it's going to have huge ripple effects.
Wow. It makes you appreciate the engineering that goes into something that most people honestly probably never even think twice about.
Exactly. And it gets even more impressive when you start looking at how these components are welded together.
Okay,
You've
yeah.
got this double head conveyor idler welding machine.
Yeah.
Blew my mind when I saw it.
So, two heads are better than one when it comes to welding, I'm guessing.
You got it. It's all about speed and precision. Because think about it. Having a large-scale conveyor system offline, that's costing money, right?
Right.
So every second counts in manufacturing. This dual-headed approach. Faster assembly, incredibly strong, precise welds.
And those welds are critical, right? Because you're talking constant stress, heavy
It's
loads.
like holding the whole system together, literally.
Wow, okay. So they've cut the rollers, they've welded them. What's next in this whole life cycle of an idler?
Well, before it can go out into the world and do its job, it's got to be tested.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where things get really interesting.
I know exactly where you're going with this because they have a machine for testing, get this, how much friction an idler produces.
The friction factor testing machine. You might think, friction, who cares? But think about it. Even a tiny bit of excess friction, but across hundreds of idlers,
Yeah.
that adds up. More energy consumption, higher costs for the whole system.
It's those little details that have those huge implications.
Exactly, and that's what we see at every single stage.
Yeah.
They're controlling these tiny details to make sure these massive systems run smoothly and reliably.
Speaking of tiny details and massive systems, this next machine, this is about making sure these idlers can survive some pretty intense situations.
Oh yeah, this one always gets people, the dust-proofness testing machine for conveyor idler.
They're simulating those dusty environments. It's like, come on.
It's not a gimmick. These things are used in mines, quarries, construction sites.
Yeah, anywhere you wouldn't want to be without a mask, basically.
Exactly. Think about what dust and debris can do. Clog gears, wear down parts, cause failures. They've got to test for that.
It's like a torture chamber for these idlers, making sure they're up to the task.
That's a great way to put it.
Hmm.
And it just goes to show this is a specialized field. You're not going to find these machines just anywhere.
Yeah, definitely not.
They're purpose-built, and they're essential for industries around the world.
It makes you wonder, how did someone even come up with the idea for a dust-proofing machine? Were they just tired of sweeping up all the time?
I'm sure there's a good story there.
Right. This is what I love about these deep dives, uncovering these hidden worlds that, honestly, most of us would never even know about. But without them, things would fall apart.
It's true. We're so used to things just working, but there's so much behind the scenes.
Exactly. So we've seen how these idlers are cut, they're welded, they're tested.
Right.
But how do they actually become part of a functioning system?
Ah, good question.
Right. That's a whole other level.
And that takes us to the assembly and the integration of these components.
And that's where we're heading next. We'll be back after the break to keep going on this conveyor belt adventure. And we're back, still neck deep in the world of conveyor idlers. And honestly,
I know, right?
I'm kind of hooked now on these machines.
It's fascinating stuff. So before the break, we were talking about how they test these idlers.
Yeah.
Like put them through the ringer with that dust test.
Yes.
But you made a good point. It's not enough to have this perfectly built idler. It's got to actually work with the whole system.
It's like having, I don't know, a super fast engine, but no transmission to connect it to the wheels or something.
Yeah. Perfect analogy. And this is where things get, if you can believe it, even more specialized. Yeah. Because TL PATHAK, they don't just make the idlers, they make the machines to install them too.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we're going beyond just like the individual parts now.
Exactly. This is where we're talking like system integration, a whole other level of engineering.
And a whole other level of machines, which, of course, they have.
Naturally.
So I was looking at this one, the idler welding machine, twin head, automatic, pneumatically operated.
Say that 3 times fast.
I know, right? But seriously, even the name sounds heavy duty.
It is heavy duty. And you hit on something there, automation. At this phase of the process, that's key.
Right.
Welding those idlers to the structure, that's got to be perfect. And it's got to be fast. Right,
because time is money, especially for these massive systems.
Exactly. So this machine, it ensures both speed and quality.
It's like this high-speed assembly line, but with, like, insanely high stakes because one little slip-up.
Exactly. And to make sure everything's running perfectly, they've got the twin-head boring machine automatic, hydraulically operated. Another mouthful.
Okay, I got to ask, what is a boring machine doing in all of this? Like, what's it boring into?
It's all about alignment. So you've got the bearings, those little rings that help things spin, and the shafts within the idler. This machine makes sure those are perfectly aligned with the support structure.
So that even the tiniest little misalignment could throw off the whole system.
Think about it. The weight, the speed, any little imbalance gets amplified under that kind of stress.
And that could lead to, like, a catastrophic failure, right?
You got it. So these machines, they're kind of the unsung heroes, making sure things run smoothly for industries all over the world.
Wow. Yeah, it's like they're preventing those oh-no moments that could, like, bring a whole operation to a standstill.
That's a great way to put it. We always see the big, impressive conveyor belts, but these small components, the machines that make them, they're the backbone of it all.
It's like we get so caught up in the scale of it all, we forget about all that precision engineering that's going on behind the scenes.
And speaking of behind the scenes, all of this, it's not happening in a vacuum. TL PATHAK, they're just one example of this global network of specialized manufacturers.
Oh, right. It's like we're here talking about a company in India.
Building machines used to manufacture parts that could end up anywhere in the world.
Wow. It really is a global effort.
It is. And what's really interesting is, even with all this automation, they still need skilled workers. You can't automate everything.
Right. Someone's got to build and maintain these machines.
And design them and troubleshoot them. That human element, it's still essential, especially in these specialized fields.
Absolutely. So we've talked about these machines, the automation, the global reach of all of this, but like, why should any of this matter to the person listening right now?
Because this is a glimpse into how the world actually works.
Yeah.
The next time you see a conveyor belt, whether it's a documentary about, I don't know, mining, or you're at the airport, or even just at the grocery store checkout, take a second to think about all the engineering that went into that.
All those little parts working together to move things along.
Exactly. And behind those parts, there's a whole network of companies like TL PATHAK, innovating, designing, building.
It's like we got this backstage pass to like this massive production, and it's way more intricate and honestly way cooler than most people realize.
Absolutely. Which makes you wonder what other hidden systems are out there quietly keeping the world running.
Ooh, good question. And that is what we love to explore here on The Deep Dive. But we've still got one more stop on our conveyor belt journey.
Oh, there's more.
Oh yeah, we're not done yet. We'll be back after a quick break to wrap things up. And we are back for the final stretch of our deep dive today.
Can you believe how much ground we've covered? It's amazing to me.
I know, right? Idlers, who knew? Okay, but seriously, I think what's really hit home for me is just how complex something so, like, ordinary actually is.
It's like that with so much in manufacturing, right? We take it for granted.
Totally. I mean, when was the last time you thought about how a conveyor belt works?
Or the stuff it's made of. Nobody thinks about it. But then you look at a catalog like this from TL PATHAK, and it's like, whoa, hold up, there's a whole universe in here.
Speaking of which, all this talk about idlers, it got me thinking about how many places we actually encounter conveyor belts. Not even just the giant industrial
Oh,
ones,
for sure.
like airports, right?
Hmm.
Distribution centers, even just checking out at the grocery store.
It's everywhere, which goes to show how adaptable that whole technology is. It can be tiny or gigantic and still work on the same basic principle.
And behind every single one of those systems is a whole team of like engineering masterminds figuring it all out, building those specialized machines to make it happen. And what blows my mind is what we've seen from TL PATHAK. That's like one company, one snapshot in time.
Exactly. The field is always changing.
Right. Like, I can only imagine what new materials or automation, like even just 5 years from now, what they'll be building.
Oh, for sure. As soon as you think something's at the cutting edge, boom, someone comes up with something even wilder.
So even though we've been laser focused on idlers, it feels like the real takeaway is way bigger. It's how this whole world of specialized manufacturing works.
100%. And it's a field that's only going to keep growing.
Yeah.
So if anyone listening is into problem solving, loves tech, this is it.
Yeah, for real. Get in where you fit in, right?
Absolutely. Because without folks who can design, build, operate, maintain all these complex systems, the world kind of stops, right?
Seriously. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our idler adventure, haven't we?
We've reached the end of the belt, so to speak.
I love it. But hopefully our listeners, they're walking away with a whole new perspective, right? Like the next time they see a conveyor belt.
They're going to drop some serious knowledge.
Exactly. They'll be the ones explaining to everyone else how much goes into even the simplest looking things.
And how many brilliant minds it takes to make it all work.
Could have said it better myself. All right, everybody. That is it for the deep dive. Until next time.